In this video, we will be talking about the sudo and the sudo file. So in our previous class, we talked about file hierarchy on the Linux machine, which when we displace all the file of the Linux hierarchy, this is basically what we were getting. So we said inside the /bin folder, that was where the command that all the user that is in the server, computer or server will be using, which might be like the ls command, the copy command, cat, and all the user like developers, database, system admin, everybody has access to all these commands. But inside the sbin, which we can say super user command, which you can say a system command, this is where it's going to be living. So you need to have a specific permission to be able to execute this command, which is why we have to type sudo most of the time to let the system know like we have the permission to execute all the command that belong in here. So the purpose of the video today is to explain how the computer do to know who have which permission to execute on which particular command. And that configuration is set inside a file called etc sudo. So we know that etc is where all the configuration happen on the machine. So inside the etc sudo, this is where we will see all the configuration, how everything is set and how everything is being defined. As you can see here for the root user, for example, here we say that we represent all the machine information. As you can see the example here, we have for the user, which is root, and here the information concerning the machine in this case, and in this other hand is going to be the information concerning the command. For this video, which I'm going to call a Sudo Part One, we're going to mainly focus on how to set up the command part and how to set up the machine. Might be for a later future video. So in this case, to explain this more better, here we say the user will define whatever user you want to define, and here for the machine, and this is the command how the machine will be set, and the side of the command come on the third part. To have it in the full manner how it's been really explained. So here we have the user, and the host stand for all here. The host will mean any machine. It could be the local host, it might be from a remote machine, whatever where he can execute a command from anywhere that he wants. Here it means he can execute the command as any user. In this case, it's not mentioned because by default, any user is already been set. So he can execute that command as any user from any machine. And in this group, he can belong to any group to execute that command at the same time. And on the side of the command, he can either enter a password. By default, the password side is not mentioned because everybody needs to enter the password, which is a good layer of security purpose. So by default, it's not mentioned, but he needs to enter a password. If you don't want the user to enter a password, you need to specify no password. Therefore, the user will not enter a password. And here is where the command that he needs to enter is being set. So we can look at it now. It will be written as this way: the user from any host as any user from any group will either enter a password or not enter a password on all command on our server. So for a user admin, for example, if we decide to create a user admin, here we're going to say that our user admin can execute his command from any host as any user belonging to any group. He doesn't need to enter any password, and he need to do that on all the command. So to do that, this is how it will look like as we come here. I'm going to try to write it here. So I'm creating a user admin, and I will say as from all hosts, that user can execute as all user, and the user belonging from any group. And here I will say with no password, he doesn't need to enter a password while executing those commands, and he have access to all the command on our system. And here I can save this. But as a good rule of thumb, while playing with the sudo file, it's not a good idea to use the vim command to get into the sudo file to edit it. The best way to do it would be to use the visual sudo command, which is going to put you in that environment to edit it. The advantage with the visual sudo is like if you get to make a mistake, the server or the configuration file will let you know, hey, there's something wrong that you did here. You need to go look at it. For example, if I decide to remove the all and I save it, here it's telling me there's a problem somewhere. It's a warning, whatever what you save, something wrong with it. You know, as I'm going back, let's say I want to save that file again for a second time. No, it's still telling me there's something wrong with it, and I need to go and check what mistake I'm making. So in this case, we're going to fix it and we're going to write it properly as it's supposed to be. And we're going to be using our visual sudo command to make that change. So, so now if we become the user admin, as a root, I can just do su as a user admin. User admin does not exist yet, so we need to create him. Let's do a user add, and we are creating admin. So, and we become the user admin now. Look, the user admin, I don't even need to give him a password because user admin should be executing all the command without needing to have a particular password to do so. Let's say user admin want to create another user that will be called Monday. In this case, so as I'm pressing enter, it seems saying permission denied. Why? Because the computer need to know that I have the privilege to execute that command actually. That's why I'm adding the sudo to say like, yes, I have the permission as somebody who can execute that command. And as soon as I press enter, it just created a user without requiring any password. If that user want to give a password, for example, if I do a password on LinkedIn, in this case, it's just supposed to be Monday, you know, it's still requiring for me to mention the sudo before I should be able to execute that command. You know, that's how that configuration is quite set. It's supposed to be used. In the next slide here that we're going to mention, you can specify that we want that user only to be able to execute a specific set of command. You know, like can you, for this configuration, like you have a new employee, which is a junior level person, and you don't want him to execute all the command. He should be able to execute only user add or either only password command. That's the two command that you want to give to him. So we can go inside our sudo file. So as a user admin, right now admin has all the privilege. So I can do just a sudo vim, I meant to say visual sudo. Now he still have the permission to execute that, but we're gonna limit his permission right now just to 2 set of command. So as I'm coming down here on admin should execute all the command. Now we're going to say, no, you need to execute only 2 commands, which is going to be user add, and then the next command is going to be the password command. So now admin just created a user Monday. Next thing, he want to add that user Monday into a subgroup. So he will do user add, user mode, sorry, and then dash a capital G. He's trying to add it on his group, which is admin group. And he's trying to add a Monday on that admin group. As I'm pressing enter, now it's asking user admin to give a password. and we know we haven't even gave user admin the password, so he doesn't have no permission to execute this command himself. So I'm going to cancel this. Let's go back as a root, and root need to do use password on admin, and he gonna give a password to the user admin. Now, if we become user admin again, and user admin would try to execute that command where he wanted to give the password, as we are giving the user admin password now, look at what he's saying. Sorry, user admin is not allowed to execute this command on this machine. The incident will be reported. So that's how you can play with the sudo file to limit permission to any user, depending of what they want to do. You can play with this configuration even further by saying that I want user admin to execute some command with the password, and he should be execute other command without entering the password. So for this, I'm going to let you guys to implement this and see how it's going to behave of act. On the next set here is you can set a group of people and give them a particular set of command that you want them to be executed. And for that, this is how you would define it. To know the difference, you need to add the percentage symbol here, which as we see, let me become root first. As we see here for this configuration down, the percentage in front of the wheel group here is the one that defines that all the users that are going to belong to the wheel group will have this set of permission, which is in our case is the same permission that the root user also have. So you can play it as a role for a different set of group of people as well. So for our case, we're going to take an example. For example, we're going to create a junior group, our new employees, and we want to give them the permission to execute only these two set of commands. So for that, I'm just going to take this and add in our Visual Sudo configuration. It doesn't matter where you put it, but I'm just going to put it down here and create that that group for those users. So as I'm saving this root now, let's say we're going to create another user that we're going to call. Let's first do a group add to create a group, and we're calling that group junior. All right. So as a group add a group junior, and we're going to create a user that let's call that user Sunday. So we do a user add dash capital G. I'm adding that user add into the group junior automatically as I'm creating it, and we're going to call that user Sunday. As I'm pressing enter, if I do, let's give that user Sunday password, password on Sunday. And we give the password back again. So let's do SU on Sunday. Right. So the user Sunday has a possibility, because he belongs to the group, the junior group here, as you can see, he belongs to the junior group. We know that he can execute two commands without entering the password, if as our configuration say. So that user he still need to mention the sudo user add, and here he gonna create the user Saturday, for example, for himself, and as he's pressing enter, he can enter that user without typing any password. In the same manner, if he say sudo password on the user Saturday that he created, he can give the password to that user Saturday without entering his own password to notify that he has the permission to do so. But if for some reason he trying to add that user to the junior group, So user mode here, dash a capital G. He want to add to the junior group, and he's trying to add Saturday to that group. Here is going to tell him you need to enter your password. As Sunday, I'm going to enter his password. He's going to say, oh, you are not allowed to execute that command. You have no business to be here to play with it. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys when it comes to the sudo file, how it's being configured, and why we have been adding a user to the sudo group to make stuff easier on ourselves when we want to execute or either give a privilege to a user to execute some command. So you guys play around with all those configuration, all those different sets. Have fun with Linux, and see you on the next video.